But what we're going to start with is just blocking out the two keys. So what we're doing here is basically starting with a position where the pendulum's on the left side of screen, and then we're going to have it move over to the right and then back. So the first thing we need to think about is the timing. There's two things that are easy to confuse in animation: timing and spacing. We're going to talk about these all the animation classes, right? So we'll be talking about timing and spacing. They're two big principles. And the easiest way to think of timing is the timing is usually numbered in frames or seconds. So we're animating at 24 frames per second. So that's one of the most important things to check in Maya, is that we're working at the right speed, right? Because if you change the frame rate, you change the number of frames, right? So 24 frames per second. So if it takes 1 second for this whole thing to happen, to go from on the left side to the right side and then back, then that means I'm going to start at frame 1, and 1 plus 24 is going to give me 25. So 1 and 25 are going to be exactly the same pose. It's going to be the same pose in two different times, frame 1 and frame 25. Then halfway, if 24 frames is 1 second, half of 24 is 12. 1 plus 12 gives us a 13. That's where these numbers are coming from. It's just sitting down and thinking about the timing. So if it takes half a second to go from here to here, start with 1, add 12, that gets me to 13. Then another 12 frames, well, 13 plus 12 gets me to 25. So that gives me the timing. And we usually start with these positions are called keys. And keys, depending on who you talk to, keys can mean different things. So in animation class, we're usually talking about keys are what you get from the storyboard. So the storyboard is usually a comic book version of the film, which shows the major ideas that are happening in the scene. So those are so important that if you don't have those drawings, the comic strip doesn't make sense. You don't know what the story is. So those are keys. But if you were in visual effects class, it's very easy to hear someone say, "Did you pull a key?" That means something very different. So the terminology will fluctuate depending on what class you're in. But for us, when we're talking about keys, either we're talking about these really important positions, those are key positions, but there's also keys in terms of animation software, where they talk about setting a key. Okay, so those are the two times in this class you'll hear about keys. Either I'm talking about these storytelling drawings or positions, or I'm talking about how to create a key in the software.